Hi, this is Keaton with Rockdale Music, and today we're going to talk about rhythm. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the whole note, which is called the whole note because it lasts a whole measure in what we call 4/4 time, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's basically worth 4 beats, right? So a whole note is worth the whole measure, which equals 4 beats. This is the equivalent rest over here. And if you divide a whole note in half, you get what we call a half note, right? So a half note, if the whole note is worth 4 beats, the half note is going to be worth half of that, which is 2 beats. So therefore, there's 2 of these half notes that make up each measure. If we keep going down the tree, we can divide those half notes even more into quarter notes, right? So now we have a quarter of the whole, which means that we have 4, right? So there's 2 quarter notes for each half note. There's 2 half notes for each whole note. Again, this is all in 4/4 time. If we keep going down the tree, we can get into eighth notes. And eighth notes are the kind of the first ones that we start to count differently because we're now subdividing, which means we're counting in between beats as well as on the actual beat. So whole notes would just be 1, 1. Half notes would be 1, 3, 1, 3. Quarter notes are going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to add another beat in between, and we're going to do that using the syllable and, or the word and. And we just represent that here by this little logo, the plus sign. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 for our quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So subsequently, there's 2 eighth notes per each quarter note, so on and so forth up the tree. And we're going to talk about one more subdivision, although there is many, many other subdivisions that we're not talking about right now. There's triplets, there's 32nd notes, you can keep going as far as you want. So right now we're just going to go up to 16th. These are kind of the most common subdivisions that we use in modern music. So the 16th note, again, we're subdividing even greater, so we're going to have to use other syllables, and we count this with an E and A to represent the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th 16th note of each 4 groupings. So here you can see 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, so on and so forth. So the way to differentiate eighth notes and 16th notes is by the amount of bar lines that they have. So eighth notes are barred once, 16th notes are barred twice. If you see more bar lines than that, then you're dealing with 36th or 32nd or 64th notes or any sort of other greater subdivision. So we won't really worry about that right now, and we're not going to talk too much about triplets right now, but I want to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning, which is this 4/4 time signature and what that means. So in the time signature 4/4, a whole note is worth all 4 beats, right? So the way we break down this time signature is the top number is how many beats there are, and the bottom number is going to be what type of beat we are counting, right? So in this instance, like with any fraction, if you were to block out the top and imagine there's a 1 there, we're talking with quarter notes, right? And there's 4 of them per measure. Whole note is 4 quarter notes. Half note is also 4 quarter notes. Quarters are also 4 quarter notes, right? So this is what makes up this 4/4 time signature. So now, subsequently, if we were to change it to 3/4, right, we have a different fraction now, and that's going to mean that there's 3 quarter notes per every measure. So that would yield different symbols, right? This would still exist, this would still exist, this is going to look a little differently, right? So on and so forth. You can get into 5/8, 10, 16, you know, as crazy as you want. But that's the way that a time signature works, and this is a basic breakdown of how rhythm works within this time signature.